time in history that we have an opportunity to move into Christ consciousness without dying physically. One of my first slides is Elijah moving into heaven on a chariot, having gone through all the processes of evolution into a higher consciousness, and he did not have to die to go to heaven. Maybe you're familiar with that story. So we are at this point in time in history having that same opportunity. Last time it was tried in history was the time of Atlantis, and you know what happened with Atlantis. So it was time to start over and see if we could evolve and come to that high enough spiritual evolution that would be possible again. And what has happened is as we've come back from Atlantis experiences and spiritually growing, this is necessary for us to go through every vibration to move us up into the highest consciousness of Christ consciousness, or some people call it the grace of God. We all go through every vibration, so we go through, I used the deeper dimension. So there's first dimension, we were talking about this at lunch today, everybody goes through a second dimension. And planet Earth is third dimension. So when you came and reincarnated into planet Earth, you came with your karma to be healed and challenged and transformed into higher energy, which would be from fear to love. So third dimension has been duality. And you can't change something, you know, when people die in what we call heaven, it's actually nirvana. When you go into that spiritual place, there's no feelings. It just is. God is. You can't change your energy. It's a very, very slow process on that side to change your energy. So we're eager beavers, can you believe that, to come into Earth and come here to change it, because third dimension, you can see the contrast. You can see these things come up in your face, like just a minute ago. Nothing's working. So that we can see it not only from the fear anymore, and act, and that's one of the biggest things, is we reacted from fear in third dimension. And when you do that, you just keep recreating the wheel, like the squirrel on the squirrel cage. And we came at this point to third dimension to say, I don't need to recreate the wheel, I am going to transform it into the love of God. And in doing that transformation of energy, you then can move higher out of third dimension into fourth dimension. And our goal at this point is to move ourselves into fifth dimension. The planet has already moved into fifth dimension. That was what 2012 is all about. I have an ebook on Amazon.com, it's only $4.95. It explains the ego and reducing the influence of the ego. Because this is all ego-driven. Edging God out, some people call it ego. So as you are edging God out, of course you're not connecting with God. Because we are energy fields, which John Thomas talked about, we are moving closer into our God. Some people call it the source. That actually goes up higher than 5D, but that's what we'll talk about today. Because that's where the planet has energies of the planet have dissipated and left, and there's been more light coming into planet Earth since 2012 than since Atlantis. Okay, so it's possible finally to move out of the darkness. You know, there's lots of Bible verses and whatever about God is light, and with God you can shine light on the darkness, and of course where's the darkness go? It's like moving into a dark room, turn on the light, oh, where's the darkness? And that's what we're doing, exactly. So as we move our energy, which is low energy, based in, well, for third dimension, based in fear, anything negative is a version of fear. We've been labeled humiliation, guilt, shame, anxiety, worry, whatever. All of those are fear-based energies. And low-based energies are low vibrations like a tuba, bass fiddle type of vibration. And as you raise your higher into, well, on the piano, as you were playing the piano as I came in, as you play higher tones, the higher the vibration, the higher your consciousness. Okay? So we have been in a consciousness that has been in the darkness, so that we could find the light in this particular. You do not have to, in my opinion, or I've been told this is my last lifetime, if you change your consciousnness, then you move into fourth dimension. Now, the first part of fourth dimension is you're getting God conscious, more God. Everybody in this room, I'm sure, is up the scale, very, very close to fifth dimension if you haven't already gone into that. So I'm talking to the choir in a way. But this is a transitional part of moving from the third dimension up to the fifth. So as you move into God consciousness or the grace of God, your energy goes higher and higher. Now, the problem is we have been separated from God. And that's what has been reinforced through the culture and civilization as we know it for the last thousands of years, okay? So we are well indoctrinated to react to whatever comes along. Oh, it's going to be bad. You know, I used to be afraid to go to the mailbox and open up the mail because it was going to be terrible news, you know. I'm not afraid to go to the mailbox anymore. Whatever shows up, and it's usually bills. No, but I can pay them today. That's the good part. So, you know, I've learned not to react or overreact. It's like a pendulum swinging from one extreme, and it goes, see, we overreacted excessively in my case. Overreacted, you go through the center where the reality is, and then you go onto the other side, and then you catch a little bit of reality as you go through. And the pendulum swings until finally what we're doing now is bringing it into center. So we don't have to overreact. We can respond from love. And that's the fifth dimension. So we are actually moving our consciousness. And the thing about consciousness, and it's taken me years to get out of my head and get into my heart, because that's where consciousness is. And it was right in one of the quotes that Charles Thomas gave us this morning. Consciousness is in the heart. It took me years to really understand is that, and if you read my book, it's on Amazon.com too, that I was raised in domestic violence, and I lived in 30 years of domestic violence, and my heart was very, very closed. I went to church. Somebody was recovering Lutheran, and I related. I went to church. I had a 10-year perfect penance. 10% wow. School, I want you to know. And I went to Sunday school, and I went to vacation Bible school, and I did all the right things. But I went home, and I wondered why it wasn't nice at home like it was in church. What's wrong? You know, this picture. I'd go to church with my children when I was married by then, and come home and get beat up on Sunday afternoon. What's wrong with this picture? My heart was closed. It was too fearful from all the abuse I'd gone through to open my heart. Now, one thing that's happened in the last 2-3 months, and I had some wonderful charts for shoppers. I went through some really, really bad pain in my chest. And I went to grab for the telephone that night for 911. And my spirit guide said, don't call 911, it's your heart chakra opening more. Oh. The pain was excruciating. I have gone through a half a dozen more periods of the pain being excruciating. My heart was shut down so bad. I mean, I have been through incest, molestation, rape, battery and abusive marriage, 30 years. You name it. I was married to an alcoholic, sex addict, psychopath, rageaholic, and our family histories were exactly the same.
Was that one man or more than one?
One man. One man. Yeah. But what I discovered is I married the exact mirror of me. We both came from alcoholic families. We both came from mental illness. We both came from sex addiction problems. I'm a great sex enabler in my case. I didn't have the addiction as far as just the codependent part of it. And rage. Our fathers were rageful. So it was like attracts like. And I have just now in the last, well, I always knew it, I shouldn't say that, it took me 18 years in spirituality to understand that I had perpetuated some of this myself, that I had contributed to it. And in the last few weeks, I totally owned, I created that. And I went right into reality. It was like, no problem. So when we are to get out of our denial and own our own part of whatever's going on in our life, and it doesn't matter if it's medical, it doesn't matter if it's relationships, if it's money, we send it out. And what comes back, like attracts like. And that's the energy to come back. So if your energy coming back and you are in a very healthy situation or a very financially stable situation, congratulations, you've healed those lessons, and your mirror is becoming really cool because your life is going smoothly. So if it's not going smoothly, aha, red flag time. What am I sending out that's coming back for me to change the energy? It's all about vibration. How can I bring it up into a higher wave? And that's, of course, what she alluded to earlier, and I had some marvelous slides on forgiveness. But there's actually two ways to resolve what you're sending out. And Casey also says, you have to meditate. See, when you meditate, you actually are moving yourself up into a higher consciousness. You're removing the ego. So if you let go and let God, if you let go of the ego and let the flow of God's energy come through you, you're going to get wonderful messages, information that's all rational, truthful, honest, and good guidance. So meditation is extremely practical because it puts you into reality, and you come out and you aren't sending out the stuff that you don't want to send out. You're sending out the love of God because that's who you become. Your heart opens up to that love that you finally are sending out and being the person we are created in the image of God, which is perfect love. And that's who we are. All we're doing is transforming what isn't God-like so that we can now own our Christ consciousness. You already are Christ. You came into this earth with that information and knowledge. But when you have a closed heart, you don't have access to it. You're not awake. I looked up in the dictionary consciousness, and two words were important. One was awareness, if you're not aware, or if you're not, what was the other word? Awakened. And what's happening is, what I was always looking through my visual eyes. Don't hurt me. I'm not hurting you. I've never fought back in those situations of my marriage. I'd say, don't hurt me. I'm not hurting you. The point is, I didn't know that I was in those days. But I wasn't the kind of a person, I was not a fighter. I never came in as a fighter. So I was sending out this energy, but when you get into spirit, you start seeing it through your spiritual eye. And the physical is not a problem anymore. It's just like, oh, wow, So what I had to realize is that as I needed to change, it wasn't anything about me. There's not one person or situation or thing in my life has to change. It's my perception. Now, when I change from perception, which is a third dimensional point of view, I go into a knowing in my heart. I know I'm a child of God. I know that abundance and prosperity is my inheritance. I know that I am safe and have security in my life. I know I'm never alone because God is never separated from me. One of the things that I've really come to understand is Joel Goldsmith called it a parenthesis in time. We have always been in eternity. And for one small little moment we said, oh, I wonder what it's like to experience love. Well, you can't experience love if that's all there is around you and you're filled with it in this lovely place that we move into and we pass to the other side. So this is when they said, row, row, row your boat this morning, life is but a dream, this is the dream. This is the illusion. We have been living a nightmare, so to speak. In my case, it has been. I tried suicide and he tried to kill me. That's pretty scary stuff at the time. So it's a dream that we created to be able to experience. Now, what do I mean by that? Feel. If we're so focused down from the society, from fear, you can't feel. So your feelings are numb. In my case, mine were very numb because the doctors had me addicted to prescription drugs. Didn't know Valium was the ultra-dry martini. Literally, one pill and one drink, they said in treatment was 6 times the effect. So I didn't have to look like a drunk, but the effects emotionally were there. Drugs, prescriptions that you get, go to the doctor, let's numb down again, let's drug ourselves one more time so we don't have to feel. We have been living in a society where there's no feelings. I almost left the show before it even started. I went to see Gravity, had no idea it was a disaster film. I thought it was going to be a love story between Sandra Bullock and George McCloskey. I mean, I really went to think, well, Mac he's a docent at the Museum of Flight, and we'd seen a wonderful video on the internet about spaceship and the space station and tour of it and whatever. And so we figured it was a love story out in space is what we thought it was.
No.
Oh, I came home and was a disaster for several days because it really touched a lot of my emotions and feelings I still needed to get in touch with. So before the show started at Gravity, they had previews of the shows coming. There must have been, I'm not exaggerating, at least 4 or 5 or 6 previews, and every one was violent and worse.
Yep,
I mean, I'm sitting there cringing, wanting to go before the main show. It's so bad. I can't handle that kind of stuff today. I just walk out and wait. You know, if somebody else wants to indoctrinate themselves with that and shut down for feelings, that's their point. You know, that's their life, but it's not mine anymore. I like being in joy today. So we have been living through this disaster situation that we came to change. And I, because of the church I went to, had no clue of how to change or that there were other answers. And one of the best books to help me, I already knew the information, but someone shared with me. It's an allegory. And some of us, I'm probably talking to the choir here, but I sometimes go to the spiritualist church and it's out of their manual. It's called Hiding Man's Divinity. The gods, having stolen from man his divinity, met in council to discuss where they should hide it. One suggested that it be carried to the other side of the earth and buried, but it was pointed out the man is a great wanderer and that he might find the lost treasure on the other side of the earth. Another proposed that it be dropped into the depths of the sea, but the same fear was expressed, that man in his insatiable curiosity might dive deep enough to find it even there. Finally, after a space of silence, the oldest and wisest of the gods said, hide it in man himself, as that is the last place he'll ever think to look for it. And it was agreed, all seeing its subtle and wise strategy. Man wandered over the earth for ages, searching in all places high and low, far and near, before he thought to look within himself for the divinity he sought. At last, slowly, dimly, he began to realize that what he thought was far off, hidden in the pathos of distance, is neither than the breath he breathes even in his own heart. Heart, consciousness, what you're breathing in and out with an open heart, then you're sending out the true reality of who you are. So it's within us, and I never heard that in church. It was out there and he had a white robe. That's what I was raised with. So to find the God within and start owning it and loving myself so I wasn't going to be attacked. See, I was sending out fear. And it would come back in all kinds of crazy ways, especially in marriage. And so I realized whatever I'm sending out is going to come back. And in my case, domestic violence, it ain't the man that's always the problem. And the women are always thought of as poor little ladies who are being attacked. And you know what I know today is that out of my trying to defend myself, I was shut down in fear and ego. And that was just like taking out my gun, invisible bullets, and shooting me, because you're not going to get me. I'll defend myself. And what I was really doing was attacking him in reality. And so I would send out my defense, and he would respond, and everybody would notice that part of it, right? The neighbors knew the fights. There was no hiding that one. He was pretty boisterous. And so I would come back and try not necessarily physically to defend myself, but subconsciously to defend myself. And it's like a poker game. The ante goes on until it becomes physical. What I did not know in those days, and I'll just use the same paper, is that we're like an iceberg. And the part that's running our lives is the 10% on top that you see. That's the physical. That's what everybody judges, looks at and says, oh, they're a good person, or they're a bad person, or they're ready to move over, or, you know, they'll never make it. And it might be the poorest, almost homeless person has already gone through all their lessons, and that might be their last lesson to move over. So you can't judge by appearances. It's what's inside that counts. It's what's invisible is what we're talking about today. The Spirit. The Secret, so I'm sure a lot of you probably saw that DVD, missed the point. They were saying you can create financial wealth by sending out affirmations, and I'm not saying you can't, but that concept is a 3D concept. It's not going to raise you. You can become a good person and move into fourth dimension and look like a good person, but you're still not being spiritual. If you seek first the kingdom of God, all things will be added. You don't have to go out and try to create your wealth and might be security. God will provide if you are in spirit. The Spirit is there to provide for you. All you have to do is be open to receiving. So I'm talking about if you remove all the things that are in the way, then more will be added. That's my experience today. It's amazing how some things are coming together. And it's like, wow, I do less. I was an overachiever workaholic and a million other addictions trying to be okay and survive in this wonderful world we have and whatever, and really ruined my health and trying to get out of this mess. And today I fortunately don't have to be an overachiever workaholic, and it's actually better because emotionally I can finally have time to wake up and have feelings and to meditate and to do the activities that are in my best interest, because now I have an identity today. My ex and I were the Bobbsey twins, and we were like 3-year-olds trying to make it in an adult world as one person. That's called codependency, okay? So today I have my own identity and I have my own feelings. And I can do and say and come and go and spend my own money as I choose. I taught school all my life, and it was always his money. I won't go into that great big story. You'll see, we can read some of it in the book. But the point is, I was really like a zombie and a robot in this situation. And I did exactly as I was told, and followed directions very well. Now I'm going to tell you how practical spirituality is. I'm so good at following directions that when Mac's baseball team 2 years ago they won the tournament. To celebrate the winnings for the season, everyone says, well, let's go have lunch at Denny's. Well, I knew where Denny's was, but from the ballpark to Denny's, I wasn't sure how to get there. So Max says, well, follow me. So I'm following him down the road. This is in Auburn, on Auburn Way, in front of Denny's by the interchange where you know what I'm talking about, Highway 18, right by 18 there. And there's an intersection and a red light, green light, and it's 4 lanes each way with a center lane too. There's a 30 center lane in there. So I get in the left-hand lane behind him to turn left so I can get into Denny's. And he goes through the intersection, the light's green. I'm such a good follower, I follow, right in the middle line. In the intersection, the light's red. And here are the cars coming. Ooh. I knew immediately I would end up in a hospital and the car would be towed. I finished going through the intersection, pulling into the parking lot, but what was going on was the cars looked like they were coming this way and their wheels were going around, but they never got closer. And I did not tow God's car, he gave it to me, and I did not end up in the hospital. Now that's how practical letting God run your life is. If you read my book, you'll know I was about 12 times at least I should have been dead. And that God and angels literally have come in and saved me, given me information or whatever. So through that and other meditation and near-death experiences, that's how I got so connected with the other side. They've literally saved my life. Literally. I would not be standing here if it wasn't for Spirit. We all have Spirit around us. Are you using it? Are you focusing on it? And are you making sure that you're connected to it? So if your heart is open, it's going to even be more bountiful for you. So it's what you don't see is what's running the show, the subconscious. And I know there's another person in here that does past life regression. This is why I like to do regression therapy, because you go into the part that you don't physically see above the surface. And this is what you heal, so that it can come into your awareness, into your consciousness, and now you can make choices from, it's what you don't know about yourself, it's what's running your life. Now if you say, oh, that's what I used to do, I don't have to do it that way anymore, and you can change your thinking, your thoughts, and your behaviors. When I was a kid in Sunday school, for whatever reason, I always got the Bible verse to read that said thoughts, words, and deeds. And I'm going to show you something. I thought these words had nothing to do with each other. But what I know today, if you have negative thoughts, they become your negative communication, they become your negative actions. Cause and effect. If you know, because of spiritual reasons, affirmations is one way to do that. I use flower essences. That helps me change energy and emotion. But you start having different communication. You know how hard it is to change from a fear-based communication to a love-based? That was a real challenge for me. I mean, I was so shut down. I had no clue how to change my communication. I was a struggle. I was not really I was never a resentful kind of person or caused trouble to others. That just wasn't my character ever. But I didn't get good results either. It was just kind of a zombie time, as I said. So now what have we done? We've changed the cause. And we're going to get different results. You are a cause. You're a co-creator with God. You can co-create anything you choose in your life if you are coming from a love base. If this can be transformed into a loving energy, there isn't anything that's impossible. God is limitless. You are limitless. Don't limit yourself. So it's all the karma and the negative energies from all kinds of lifetimes. I've had 650. Thank goodness I don't have to go through third dimension again. Been there, done that. Now, there's so much in my mind that I want to cover. Ooh, my goodness. Okay. I think this is probably maybe a real major one. It basically says spirit is the source. I have a beautiful chart on my PowerPoint. And it shows the chakras. You get the point, okay? And I am an artist, but don't take this seriously. Okay, so we have get it? If we're thinking through the ego mind, the chakras have to be open. I have a really great chart in my program. And if the energy doesn't come through, this is the interface. Your chakras are the interface. On the back of your handout, it suggests some things to help with your chakras. If your chakras aren't open, in fact, Matt and I do free healing on Thursdays afternoon at Camp Edgewood in Milton, Washington, and we'll come help you with your chakras if you want to show up at 2 o'clock. You can always call us the night before. But if your chakras aren't open, you're going to be sick because you're not getting the energy of God. That's really what medicine's about. Everything they're putting out there, they don't call it group health, they call it group death.
Yeah.
And if you don't understand some of the history behind that, the dark side has been perpetuating this drug and get the population down so we can control your there. It's a big game. So I don't go to doctors anymore. I use other options, okay? Medical, alternative type things. So if your chakras are open, then you're coming through the mind of God. And that's the choice. That's free will. You can choose to have God consciousness, Christ consciousness, or you can choose to stay where you are because it's familiar. Mind is the builder, and physical is the result. Okay? You can be as healthy as you choose to be. I can tell you wonderful stories that are in my book to be published about people that have come for healing that were declared that they would never make it alive because of their conditions medically. So I do know that God heals, love heals. I've basically healed my life except for this one spot in each of my knees.
She healed herself.
So when we change our emotions from being fear-driven, crisis, chaos, turmoil, the enemy of Get Smart on television years back was chaos. All of that doesn't have any energy. On the slides I have some charts where the color purposely is khaki. Do you know why soldiers wear khaki uniforms?
Camouflage.
No feelings to that color. You can go out and kill easier.
Oh dear.
Colors are a big part of your health. Spirit would tell me what colors to wear each day when I was trying to get much healthier than I was. Spirit colors are very important. So you move out of fear, and there's actually, in my book, I have a chart of the energy numbers as you move higher and higher in consciousness through the anxieties, through the worry, into maybe being willing to change, willing to look at what you're sending out, your dark side. Because if you don't, if you're sending out, oh, that person's really a bad person, I'm never going to have anything to do with them, it isn't the person. It's your energy that needs to be addressed. It's a signal to you that needs to be changed. So what happens is, as you change those feelings about that person, you move into joy. On the back side of your handout, it says joy, gratitude, and presence of God. And so you cannot have joy if you keep these old feelings. If you don't go through forgiveness, and I'll talk about that in just a second, you can't move out of third dimension. You're staying in the old wounds and the old past history and the worry of the future, which my mother going through the depression, I was raised with worry of money. Up the yin-yang. You didn't spend a penny, even on a vacation. That was a success. So when you get through going through all the lower energies into starting to be happy and joyful, which is the highest up here, and bliss and ecstasy, these are numbers where you can become enlightened. If you're in a state of joy, you can't have fear. They're not exclusive. Right? If you are in a state of gratitude, your heart is open. The flowing energy is moving through you to create out and come back to you. If you are in the presence of God right now, see what happens is we live our lives based on the past and the future. So we've got one foot in the past and one foot in the future, and we're not in the now. Can enjoy. Joy is a big word. The upper fifth dimension. Joy's got the perfect thing. Just own it. Own it. That's who you are. You are a joyful person.
Well, that's
So,
why I use it, because of course my name is Joyce, but I went to Joy because when I teach or work with people, because when they say joy, I say, oh, okay, I gotta be.
Mm-hmm. So you give up the past, you give up the future, and you live in the now or the moment. That's the presence of God. This is where the power is. This is the only place you can change energy. So that's why it's important to stay in the now, because then you can make responses that are loving. What's the most loving way to treat myself and you? Now. Right now. When we give up the past, my masters taught, this was one of the first things they taught me. I was sitting on the beach at Seaside, and they came in and they said, Marilyn, you've got to give up the past, you've got to forgive. And I didn't understand the words, and they said, so just think of it as giving up the past wounds for a new day. It's history. See, this is history, and you can't, and I had wonderful quotes by Gerald Jack Polsky on my art presentation. Gerald Jampolsky wrote a really good book about forgiveness, this real simple version of Course in Miracles, and I'm a big purport of Casey goes, if you're really talking about the God within and living in the presence of God, Course in Miracles and Gary Renard and Jerry Jampolsky write based in that philosophy. And I'm a huge fan of Joel Goldsmith. He has written 101 books, it's on the handout. And he's a Christian mystic, and he is so powerful about all of this, that you live in the God consciousness, the Christ consciousness in you right now. That becomes your experience. And see, it's feelings, because if you're an ice cube, which Charles Thomas talked about, which is one of my examples, you're frozen. You know the movie Frozen by no energy, no flow. If you don't have feelings, you can't be in the presence. You cut it out. All right, so then you melt it and you have water flowing, and those are your emotions. And our society has taught us not to have emotions. Why? Because they can control you then. So if you aren't feeling anything, well, you know, you aren't feeling God, that's for sure. So you want your emotions to flow. I'll never forget the time Oprah was on television and she started to get emotional about something to do with her and Gail. I can't remember the situation exactly. And they go right away, get it clean, shut her down. You know, they do everything you can. Oh, don't get emotional. Well, that's the healthiest thing you can do, is let that old emotion out so the new can come in, so the love can come in and take that space. Just, if you aren't crying, I was a little kid, I shut down crying at the age of 5. It's not going to change my parents from fighting if I cry, is it? So I never cried until recently. In fact, 2 nights ago, I've got DVDs at home of Highway to Heaven, and they were I'm trying to build a relationship with my son. That's a long story. And the program of that night on Highway to Heaven was the man was trying to have a relationship. You know that one where the son died?
Oh, me too.
Yeah, okay. And this movie, TV show, brought all kinds of emotions, and I went to bed that night meditating, and there's tears. I didn't even try to cry. The tears are coming down. So then what we're talking about is when it becomes a gas, when you move up into the higher consciousness, then you're in the spirit. Your energy is up where we've always wanted it to be and where we were created to be. I want to tell you a true story about how, another way this is so practical. Because I was a domestic violence, this has been on the internet, published, and it's going to be on the internet shortly. I'm doing an interview now for domestic violence on YouTube. My husband came after me one night. If you didn't do what he wanted to, then you got punished, okay? And in those days, I was a good robot, didn't have any feelings, and I didn't know I was perpetuating all these problems, and I've had to own it, and it's amazing what happens when you do. He came after me, and I knew it was going to be next week. Angels literally showed up and held me like a statue while I'm absolutely paralyzed in a corner of a room. Now, he had jumped over a king-size bed to strangle me once, so that little twin in my son's room was no deterrent. I knew I was mincemeat. Time stood still. The silent voice said, I will tell it the story because we're running out of time. The bottom line is, I was told to say, God forgive me, for he knows not what he does. So I did, and I said, God bless him. Nothing happened. He's still there. He's just enraged. The muscles were just flexing. You could just see the smoke come out like he was a bull ready to charge, like a bull in a matador situation. And the voice said, I said it twice, God forgive him, for he knows not. The voice said, this is a little tiny bedroom. It's been enlarged since it's my therapy room now. But it's just a little room. I said, if you're kidding, I can't go by him. You know, I'm going to have to be a goner. And the angels escorted me out. Right next to him, and I did touch him. And I thought, oh my God, I didn't have it. Nothing happened. I walked out into the hall, turned around to see what was going to go on behind me. I wish I'd had a camera that night. If you'd seen the look on his face. He walked out, went down the hall, went to the family room, watched television, and never touched me again. If you're sending out love, it's the safest thing you can do. It's like a shield. It protects you, and no no one can harm you, because what happened is instead of defending myself, I sent love, and there was nothing to defend on his side. So do that. If you forgive your enemies, give it up. They're just playing the role that you asked them in your script before you incarnated to play, so that you would have those experiences and could change that energy from, in my case, defending myself in that situation, to saying, I know today I have compassion for that man. Today to say, he had a very abusive childhood, as bad as mine or worse. I understand where he's coming from now today, how bad things were. I asked the psychiatrist at one point, we went to one, do you think you'll ever get past this? And he says, I don't think you can ever face the fears of the abusive childhood he had. I can have compassion for that person today. I don't want to necessarily, I was around him for 48 hours when my grandsons graduated from high school, and I didn't give away my power once. I didn't stay with my little 3-year-old like I was in a marriage. I was an adult that weekend. This is all about maturity. Grow up out of your little kid scaredness. I taught school, I said, and we had a chart on a weekly reader one time. And it was, what are the fears that you still need to outgrow? Outgrow your fear, outgrow your anger, give it all to God, and let for a new today of Christ consciousness. That's who you are. All the stuff just got in the way. So everything you release that is not loving, what's going to be left? The love of God. And you were created in that love. So own it. The planet is already in 5th dimension. I channel the 3rd Saturdays of every month. It's on YouTube if you want to go back. It's all about growing up emotionally and spiritually, so we're ready to be in that Christ consciousness of 5th dimension when things are gradually going faster and faster. You've got to join the club, or you're going to be re-signed.
Yeah.
That's the only way I can put it without going into great detail. So if you want to stay on planet Earth, join the club of moving into Christ consciousness. That's who you are. Claim it, own it. Know that's what you came to Earth to change, so that you could be here. And there's a children's book by Neil Donald Walsh, but he puts it so simply. And the little soul wants to be, come to Earth and have these experiences, and the other little soul, they all gather around and said, and the little soul learned what it must feel like to be sad. But just then a friendly soul stepped forward from the crowd, not to worry, little soul, but friendly soul said, I will help you. You will, the little soul brightened. But how can you do that? Why, I can give you someone to forgive. You can. Certainly, chirped the friendly soul. I can come into your next lifetime and do something for you to forgive. They are just acting out the script you gave them to play for you. So if you know about Ho'oponoponos in the Hawaiian forgiveness, don't say, I'm sorry, that gives away your power. Say, I own the script I wrote. Then say, I forgive you, I love you, and thank you for playing your part in my script, so I could grow from the fear of 3rd dimension into the higher consciousness, which is my birthright, of joy and Christ consciousness, and live in that higher plane of what is the next 1,000 years of peace, is what we're coming into. So you created it, own it, forgive everybody around you, past, present, future, past lives. I've been trying to do that with everything in my life. It's amazing what happens. But do it, because if you don't detach, then you're still stuck to it, and it'll still come back as a lesson. So the huge lesson is, there's only one power, and that's God. And anything you focus on that isn't God is an illusion. There's only one power. It can't hurt you if you don't give it power. Bacteria can't hurt you. There isn't any dis-ease. Oh, we've been living in illusions. This is what we get. Ill. If you live in reality, guess what you're going to get? With wellness, rational, sane thinking. So on the back of the handout, there's a circle, and I just heard this from my near-death studies lady. a MD doctor, Mary Neal's been on television, all books and so forth, and she says, I won't give you this, we don't have time, oh, I gotta get out of it, for the whole story, but she says, if you are in joy, have gratitude, and in the presence of God, that's what we're here for. That's love. That's what we're moving into, and so you can join us on a great road of happiness, of ecstasy and bliss. This trip is not always fun, but it's going to be worth every bit of energy you put into changing and releasing and giving up anything in the past. Doesn't matter who they are. The lesson was I needed to learn this. If anybody could have played that part. I could have had any stepfather that treated me like Cinderella. I could have had. It's not the face. It was the lesson I needed. So get out of those emotions and move into seeing, this is what I learned from it. This is what I don't have to make that mistake again. This is what I can change. And that's the glory that you have that choice today. When you're aware and you're conscious that, oh, that's what I did, then that consciousness will move into Christ consciousness. It's up to you and nobody else. So I hope you take the challenge and move as, I help people with counseling do that, but I can't do it for you. This is an inside job. Nobody out there made you a victim or bullied you. You've got to give away that mentality. You are responsible for what happens inside of you, and nobody else can do it to you or against you or for you. It's your job. So rise to the occasion and enjoy the love and joy that comes from it. So I'm sorry the PowerPoint thing went to pieces. I have wonderful things to show you today, but I think I've covered it pretty quickly, and if we don't get busy, we're going to be coming in here. Do we have just a couple questions? And I have something. You are the light inside. I didn't get into that, but she has keychains for everybody, because you are the light. Go around and you've got your little chain, and you can remind yourself you are the light.
Thank you.
Marilyn, if we emailed you and said we were in the workshop, could you email us the PowerPoint?
I don't know if I can try. I'm not sure how big a message it would be, but I'd love to.
Can you let us all know what your YouTube channel is and how to contact you?
Oh, yeah, well, you can, there's some brochures on the back table there. My website is angelicusgifts.com. Well, you've all got brochures there. YouTube is Challenge from Hunter's Realms. I also did a lecture here, a workshop here last year that's on YouTube. A whole list of health lectures on there. A variety of things are on YouTube with me involved with it. All the channels for the last 2 years, and Sue is wonderful enough to tape the channels lately, and so they're not just auditory. Currently, they used to be just auditory. So, and you can Google my name and you'll come up with a lot of things. I have a lot of articles on Ground Report. Over 300,000 people have read my articles, and I have a blog. And I can write on Amazon.com, so there's a variety of things that are in the brochure. I'd love to hear from you.
Did you ever think that maybe you're not having the PowerPoint and your journey is purely you? This has been very valuable. I've been around you for 10 years. But this is just pure meat, not potatoes.
Thank you. Well, I appreciate that, because the old teacher in me is you get your lessons together.
Yeah.
So apparently that's what I was supposed to happen.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
It seems like Casey reading doesn't really get to the depth of forgiveness that you kind of see in the Course in Miracles. It doesn't even kind of. What do you think that's about? I always thought that was funny. You try to read as much as his forgiveness, but I mean, of course, the readings are very beautiful, very advanced and everything. But then there's this forgiveness thing just doesn't turn over,
I agree with you.
Yeah.
I did some meditating about that. What I came up with was, what Spirit told me, was our society at the time that he was doing that wasn't quite ready to hear this message yet. And so what happens is the people that come in are the right time for the next step in evolution. Right. And that was his period of time. And then when Course in Miracles was written, this is a later time after Casey, when Jesus gave the Course in Miracles. And it was time to wake people up to a new degree when it comes to spiritual contact.
That's what I kind of I see that. I see that too. Yeah.
Yeah, I agree with you. And that was a blocking point for me at one point. So that's why I cut Joel Goldsmith. Oh man, I'm just in heaven when I'm reading his books. I think you'd really enjoy them.
Is he still alive?
No, he died 60.
How about that husband of yours? Is he still alive?
Yes. Oh, this is a really important. Joy, thank you. That was God inspired.
And is his name Redmond?
Yes. He's in California. I was meditating one day, and I just couldn't believe it. He's still alive. He came to me in spirit. He said, this still breaks me. He says, do you know how much I loved you? You put it apart because I really didn't want you.
Oh, that's beautiful. Oh, how
You
beautiful.
can't be angry at people that are helping you to grow.
Right.
It's just such a
It's just-
painful lesson.
Thank you. I mean, it was a terrible lesson at various times, I'll tell you.
Yes,
Stories,
oh
but
So where is he now? I'm getting shivers.
California.
he's in California.
Okay.
What I discovered is that love and fear don't mix. It's like oil and vinegar. So I'm probably one of the few domestic wives that ever kept the house and got my hand with the
And stuck
what
it
I
out.
worked so hard for.
It would have
I had
left
3
long
jobs at
ago.
one point,
Yeah.
so money was always his, but I was trying to get money for church. So then I ended up doing this and doing, teaching and working in our business and then giving flute lessons, because at least I maybe I'd have that to give to church, So finally thought I had a arrangement for later. So, yeah, he's still alive.
You get married again?
3 more times.
Ah,
He ended up in jail for domestic violence the second time his wife after me.
Well, at least he's getting his.
No, see, he has his lessons and he picked me for probably his lessons to be learned too.
okay.
So, it's all neutral, it's all lessons. It's
But the
not-
other 3.
Get rid of, the thing that's going to save you is to get rid of the personality.
Yeah.
Get rid of the people's faces, like they're a bad guy. No, they played the part. They helped you. Thank you for send love to your enemies. It's in the Bible. Pray for your enemies.
What?
Because it's you being projected
It takes
out.
you a while to find it in the Bible.
Well, yes.
I'm sorry to change the subject. What does the dachshund with the butterfly wings stand for?
Well, that's a good question. I like that. It was my first art commission.
I love it.
I've sold more of that painting than any. A person, I was going to a writer's conference in Santa Barbara, and this doctor was writing a book, it was actually a film, and said, could you paint this for me for the book I'm writing? And I came home, and that was what happened. And yeah, it was my first art commission.
They are angels in disguise many times.
My cat was an angel. That's another story. I've had 3 lives with, well, my cat's had 3 lives with me. Another life, like 5 times 2. Any other questions? You've been a great audience. I appreciate your
You were
patience.
great.
and-
You were great.